Hi, I'm Adam Hughes. We're going to be working on a convention sketch today, and thought I'd show you how I do some of them. I'm going to start with the flesh tones. Got my warm gray Copic markers, which is what I like to start with, and I'm going to dive in with the W0, the lowest value they've got, and see if we can figure something out. Normally I like to go in with the lightest value. I like to work lightest to darkest with these guys. And I'll go in and put a nice base in with the W0. One of the things I like about the Copics is they are refillable, and while that's wonderful for the fact that you can make a marker go forever, it also means you can control the saturation of the marker. So a lot of times if you want a dry brush effect, you can let the marker run dry, and if you need to cover a large area and have it be a very even tone, you can overfill the marker. Works really nice. Normally, I would do sketches with these markers at conventions, and people seem to enjoy them. They like to watch art happening. They have a good time. They ask questions. It's good for everybody. But I realized that I was creating different types of art with the markers than I would with my normal technique of pen and ink artwork and then digitally coloring it with Adobe Photoshop. So I have since taken to, from time to time, producing finished pieces of art for my comic book assignments with these markers. So they're very, very versatile, very, very good for everything you might need from a marker. Fast convention sketching or long, laborious illustration assignments. All right, that's pretty good for the first round of tones. Go over here and get my W1. The Copic markers, I like to use the warm grays and the cool grays. Gives you a nice duochromatic feel. The markers go from 0 to 10, which makes sense. You would think, okay, 10% increments, that's really great. 0 being the lightest, 10 being the darkest. And just like everything else in life, there's another 3 settings past the darkest. There's a W10, which you'd think is black, but then they go to regular black and then special black. So you end up having about 12 values to work with when you're doing a piece. I find that's more than enough. And I usually find that when I'm doing flesh tones, if they're, say, Caucasian flesh tones, from W0 to W4 gets the job done for that sort of flesh tone in normal daylight settings. You might be working on a character that has darker skin, someone from another planet. You never know. The markers work really great on top of each other when you work light to dark. When you work dark to light, sometimes you can get a little bit of splotchiness going on, which you can use to your advantage if you're trying to get a texture, but if you're doing a flesh tone, you might not want that. So I'm going to assault the piece with the next value. One of the things I like about the Copics is you can work wet on wet very nicely. All right, starting to look like a person. Go to some W2. A lot of times I'll just kind of go with the flow and see how the piece progresses. I'll have a plan, and more often than not, I'll paint myself into a corner, and I'll have to paint myself out. So it's always good to be, sort of free and open to ideas, and always have a good artistic exit strategy. So when I'm working on one of these marker pieces, I just kind of go for it, and if I screw it up, I'll go, all right. Going up to W3 now. Probably start working on some shadows. Ultimately, we're going to work up to the most absolute dark we can come up with, which will be the absolute blacks, which we save for things like the eyelashes, the eyebrows. If you have a character with dark hair, the hair. A lot of times I'll like to put a bold contour line around a figure. It just gives it sort of a nice Art Nouveau look, which I'm very fond of, and I'll usually save my absolute blacks for something like that. Now, whatever markers you like to use, and it's all about finding tools that you're comfortable with. I firmly believe that, you know, art's sort of like a playground. You know, everybody should get along nice. So you and your materials and your paper or your canvas, your chair, your light, you know, your favorite beverage, you should all get along. You should all enjoy each other's company and not really struggle with each other, because only 1 out of every 100 artistic partnerships flourish from conflict. So make sure you got some tools that you like. You know, I like my Copics. I like my Strathmore drawing paper with my Copics. You may find yourself using Design 2 markers with a completely different type of paper. Just find what works best for you. Make sure the tools aren't fighting you, and you'll concentrate less on the actual technique and think more about the piece that you're working on, which is important. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy using these markers, is I don't have to think about them too much. They're very fire and forget. All right, I'm pretty happy with those flesh tones. I'll go over to my Faber-Castell Pitt pens, which I really enjoy doing the inks with. A lot of times I'll do the inks before I'll do the markers, but sometimes if you're not careful when you're laying down your flesh tones, they can smudge the Pitt pen ink a little bit. So if you're comfortable with your inking skills, you might do what I've done here, which is do your flesh tones first. Pencils, flesh tones, and then your inks. All right, let's go with a good medium size here. And now you can do wonderful tonal stuff with these markers, I'm sure. My background is in comic book illustrations, so I have been programmed by a lifetime of doing comic book art to want to see stuff with a bold inked line. There we go. And sometimes when I'm done, I'll take a Barrel Prismacolor color pencil, a black one or a white one. I use the white one sometimes for highlights. Sometimes I'll go in with a black one to beef up areas that the 110 special black hasn't gone quite black enough for me, or to give it a really nice bold line. Did a pretty good job with the highlights by leaving the white of the paper through, but there's a couple places where we can go in and give it a little bit of extra. Well, that wasn't too bad. That's pretty much how I attack flesh tones when I'm using my markers for things like convention sketches and the occasional assignment. My name's Adam Hughes. Thanks for joining me. If you get a chance, check out my book Cover Run, available online and at bookstores now, and check out the DVD when you get a chance.